I had read a book called Journey to the West, which is a 400-year-old Chinese novel.
Welcome to Slave Ship 909.
It's been adapted into lots of different mediums. There was a TV show in the UK which was massive. Damon Albarn just did an opera. So it's always had this kind of undercurrent of coolness about it.
Remaining journey time is estimated at 16 hours.
Tamim and I talked about the possibility of doing a game which is driven by two characters, and it's quite a big and quite an ambitious thing to do, to actually want to invest in an emotionally complex journey just between two characters.
Free from the random hazards of the wild.
As soon as the project started, I grabbed a copy of Journey to the West and we sat down, read through it, and just kind of looked at what elements we could use.
So we took that book and based it in a post-apocalyptic North America. Replaced all the magic of the old book with technology and the demons with military droids.
There are going to be many games in the future, in the next 5 to 10 years, I think, which, as I say, they'll stop just being classified as games. They'll stop being, and films will stop being classified as films, and they will be events.
No matter how hard we've been trying to make stories work, they're at the level of B movies compared to the best movies. So we wanted to kind of attempt to bridge that gap.
So it was an immense challenge, but we had a terrific writer, Alex Garland, who came on board.
He's done some great books and films, The Beach, 28 Days Later.
We actually sat down with Alex through a series of workshops. So we got the main story arc going, we decided what locations we were going to use.
We would work through the story and the level designs together.
Strung together this road trip, effectively.
When I originally agreed to do this project, it was actually to come on board as a director, and then some way down the line, I was looking at some artwork and saw the original drawings for Monkey and thought, actually, you know, that would be quite a cool character to play.
The other character is Trip, and she grew up in a community that her father set up.
I absolutely see some of myself in Trip. I mean, it's certainly in a different medium, but I still really am her.
So the journey actually begins with both Monkey and Trip captured on a slave ship.
Trip escapes at the beginning.
In the process of escaping, she actually shorts the whole system and causes it to crash. Monkey survives because he's so strong, so he punches and fights his way through. After the ship crashes, they both end up in New York.
So she spots her main chance, who is this big brute.
While Monkey's unconscious, Trip sticks this slave headband, which is used to control slaves, onto his head.
You put this on me.
Let me explain.
Get this thing off, or I'm gonna rip your head off.
And he has to obey her orders, or else she causes him an immense amount of physical pain.
Stop!
She does this because she knows that the city is teeming with inactive mechs.
What she wants him to do is to take her back to her community, which she's been plucked out of.
You know, she's not doing it because she hates him. She's doing it because she has to.
I die. You die.
Oh!
And so they start this uneasy journey together.
Get out!
She's the brains, if you like, and you're the brawn, and together you can defeat pretty much anything you come across. Beginning of the project, we had this core idea of adapting Journey to the West and giving it our own visual style.
We've tried to really give it something different, a different twist.
When we decided that this would be based 150 years in the future in a post-apocalyptic world, we were very well aware that it's a trope. It can be a cliche.
We actually saw a program called Life After People, and they showed what would happen to these major cities in the future when people are gone.
Within a few hundred years, the world basically becomes unrecognisable.
So we decided, let's start in New York and make it a journey actually across the US.
We didn't want to be depressing about it. Like a lot of post-apocalyptic movies are depressing in games. We wanted to kind of make a fantasy that was like Miyazaki movies, where everything's different and everything's colourful, and it's just a window into a totally different fantasy world.
We thought New York would be a good place to ground it. If nature is reclaiming, then you need something to be almost aware of.
Our style in terms of art is also very colourful, so we always want to put colour into all our games, and we want to add post-processing effects that you would normally see in movies to kind of make the image just feel alive.
We could push the colors a lot because the robots got rust, which can be orange, can be red.
Skyscraper that's kind of got ivy completely all over it, or with a bed of poppies that are giving off all these shafts of red light.
You can see evacuation notices in New York, you can see chemical warfare, biohazard symbols.
Very often you see something that looks like a tree, but actually it's not a tree because it's maybe a piece of robot. The idea of monkeys is come from the legend of Monkey, the Journey to the West, the book. The original one has got a specific mask paint. I try to keep that.
Some people won't be aware of some of the subtleties that we've got in, but there's obviously the staff and Monkey's cloud.
So the cloud is actually part of Monkey's character. Even if you look back at hundreds of year-old images of him, he's on his cloud with his staff, with his headband.
This character is still really big, but more an animal. You can see in the animation, especially when you jump one building to another, it really looks like kind of Tarzan, like in the jungle, like really like a monkey.
The other character is Trip.
Little by little, her personality, fragile, personality come out, and you feel more attached to her.
The third main character in the game is Pigsy.
He's got like pin-up tattoos everywhere. He's got girls, thinking about girls all the time.
Trip, is that you?
Pigsy!
You don't have to have any interest in the book or the TV series or anything to appreciate the game. It's just a good story with good characters and a rich world. We, as a studio, we always use performance capture in all our games. It's a technique that we pioneered in games with our last game.
So on Enslaved, we're working with House of Moves to do the performance capture.
This is my first mocap experience. Yeah, it's awesome.
I did work with Andy on his last project. We've both got a kind of background in physical theatre, which is the kind of theatre where you don't have many props and the actors try and create everything in the imagination of the audience.
Performance capture really needs to be clarified. It needs to be explained to people. It's becoming a huge part of the industry.
What it involves is bringing actors into a studio, motion capture studio, where we mark them up all on their body and on their faces. They have mics on their heads as well, and they basically perform totally naturally, just like any other actor would in a movie or in a TV show.
Okay, I need a few minutes to get this open. Keep watch, make sure no one sees us. We had 3 days of rehearsal before we started any kind of actual capturing, where Tamim and Andy and I got to sit down and really plot out from the beginning each scene.
Yeah, monkey!
Yeah.
We got one problem.
Yeah, what's that?
It's a license to have fun, to create as part of an ensemble. Admittedly, quite a small ensemble, but you know that you're creating an imaginary event.
Are they mechs? So these are mechs, not slaves that are coming to attack.
Yeah, the mechs.
We're reaching a point now where people are beginning to understand there's a necessity. There's a human need in having storytelling impact in gaming in a big way. I think Ninja Theory have been pioneers in that respect.
As an attitude towards recording VO, we like to use the on-set recorded stuff as much as possible. When they're capturing the motion capture, we capture the voice as well, because unlike in film you will often replace a large percentage of the dialogue after the film's been done. But in a game, with mocap, it's a different actor, when I say a different actor, the character looks completely different. And the translation from the facial movement, it's never a perfect thing, so everything you can do to preserve the original performance, to make the original performance come through, is really, really key. And that sort of made us think about how we record the rest of the VO that isn't for the cutscenes.
You're really worried about Monkey damaging stuff because he's shooting stuff.
Okay, stand by. And we're on. Looks like the first anchor point is down these tunnels. I need you with me, Monkey. Get up here.
Please.
Monkey, there's a route up. I've coded the dragon flag to lead the way. All you have to do is follow it.
Sure.
Usually in a VO session you've got an actor and they've got to be just here and the microphone's just there and they've got to direct their voice at the mic. They can't move about. We decided to use the same microphones that we used on set, but that also has a really nice effect of freeing the actors. So we had them all with head mics like they had in the mocap session, and that just means they're free to jump about, lie on the floor, roll around, and they did, without thinking. They just do all of the things that the characters are doing in the game whilst they're delivering the lines, and it just gives so much life to the performance.
Whoa! Let me disable the security systems.
Yeah, sounds like we're gonna have a bit of mech action in here pretty soon.
I think there's a lot of parallels between what an actor does and what an animator does. They just happen to use their face instead of the mouse and keyboard.
At the same time, there's people like me that are basically making sure that the technology and everything is all kind of working and going to be ready for them. All the cameras really care about is points in space, and that's all that we're retrieving from them. We're also capturing traditional video footage of them because we don't want to lose sense of their performance, so we want to do justice to it and record it like a conventional film, because that's how it's going to be edited together.
Are you and Trip? And me and Trip what? Are you together? Trip enslaved me. And if I don't do what she says, she causes me a lot of pain. And if I still don't do what she says, she kills me. All right.
And if you do it right, it draws you totally in and you totally believe that character's real.
I'm not the kind of guy to go muscling in.
Pixie. She can hear every word we say.
Thanks, everybody. That was great.
I think it went pretty well. And that was the highlight of my day. You know what I mean?
The way that Ninja Theory have reinvented the Legend of Monkey is kind of, for me, quite exciting in that it's using a lot of modern technology. It's set in a post-apocalyptic world. We're in Prague right now, and we've just come over here, just kind of working in Smečky's studios, which is a fantastic studio. It's actually my favourite sounding studio that I've worked in. There's a lot to get into, because you can get into emotions and you can get into action, and you can get into a lot of sadness and tragedy as well. So it's got all of those elements that you want as a composer to get very dramatic and very full on with orchestration. it kind of feels like there's a tribal language to it, which is still there. There's a lot of excitement, a lot of danger, a lot of threat, a lot of movement. Because of what's going on with Monkey, you have this sense of movement towards an inevitable conclusion. There's a sense of loss. He's lost a great deal, but he's a hardened soul. That's great.
Really good. I'm impressed, actually.
Excellent. That was very good.
All right.
Yeah.
How's it sounding?
I want to make sure that priorities 1, 2, 3 are okay and solid. I mean, you know, look, if we end up not doing everything, that's kind of accounted for. I mean, I talked to Tom. I think for me, you know, it's I really enjoy the way in which Monkey and Trip travel. I mean, they just have fantastic movement between them. It's very flowing, and I think it's trying to get that sense of constant flow and momentum into the music, which actually drives a lot of the orchestration as well, and the way in which I'm trying to make the music work, I suppose, to give you a sense that you constantly infuse with energy. You know, when you're playing the game, that it never lets up in terms of that energy, and I think that's what's exciting about it. It just stays, it just drives all the way through very strongly. With me, I work very closely with Tom Colvin, and we both have a sense of the narrative of the overall game, but we pretty much work to the storyline.
We're very used to looking at stuff and thinking, oh, that looks a bit wrong because of this, so, you know, we can be quite analytical and work out. But audio is very much more about the emotional, and we're not just talking about music. I mean, every element of audio is involved in pulling your emotions one way or another. The sound effects are probably the largest job for us in the sound department. Everything has to be made from the bottom up. Every leaf moving, every bird, every creature that you see in the background. To keep things fresh, we use a really great Foley artist. We work with them on Heavenly Sword, and again, we've got a really good working relationship with them. And they've had a lot of fun, you know, spending a day with lumps of metal and hitting them in different ways, and going to a fairground and recording all the pistons in the machines and stuff. They do all of that. I think the most important thing for us was for it to be visceral and exciting. Enslaved combat-wise. Every single time the staff connects with a robot, you really want to feel that connection. I mean, another thing was just getting under the skin of all the different robot characters. The Sea Dog, for example, I think we went through many different trial versions to get that sort of really nice, grinding, threatening sound as he's moving.
Get back inside. Gonna have to fight it.
Every time we make a game at Ninja Theory, we try to think of the pillars of the game, the core of that experience. So on this particular project, Enslaved, we chose 3 main pillars, which were dramatic storytelling, cinematic action, and monkey and trip interaction.
Hey! Hey! Open the door! You mother...
It's quite interesting how we've had to try and make Trip useful for you in game mechanics.
When you start the game, the primary objective is just to get her through these mech-ridden scenarios.
Then when I ask you to do something, you need to do it immediately.
Okay.
But as you progress, she starts to come into her own.
You can give a limited amount of orders to Trip.
Hit the brakes.
Locking brakes now.
In particular situations, you can tell her to move.
This way!
If there's mechs with gunfire, you might not have any way to kind of take them out. So she can cause distractions.
They've activated!
She starts to scan the enemies that you've killed.
Another way she can help you through the game is to upgrade your weaponry.
She also catches a dragonfly, which is basically a CCTV camera that flies around the city.
I'll put a marker up on your headband display.
We're using her as the navigation method through the world to help you really find your way. And when we're looking at environment traversal, we really wanted to do something a little bit different to what's out there. So what we've done is create these windows of opportunity. So as you're swinging through the environment, if you hit it right, you get the right kind of combo, you can string these moves together. So you get a much more flowing experience.
Monkey's main weapon is his telescopic staff.
So the staff will extend and you'll be able to use it to attack at short range. But also, if he does a wide attack, it'll extend further and knock enemies back.
Shoot them with a plasma blast or a stun blast. As well as that, another toy he's got in his arsenal is his cloud, and you can navigate areas that you weren't able to navigate without it.
Trip is a very vulnerable character. She doesn't have any weapons. All she has is an EMP device which she can use to knock out mechs for a short amount of time and run away.
No combat area is there just on its own for no particular reason. Everything has a logical purpose for being there.
All of the gameplay is kind of funneled and directed to lead you up to these particular moments.
For example, in one particular scene, you have an exit on the other side of these rooftops. So in this scenario, you can play it two ways. You can either go around to the right and just brute force beat up these guys, or you can do a more sneaky way and use Monkey's kind of Tarzan-like clambering abilities to sneak up on him, jump down, take him out, rip off his gun. Now you've got his gun with a limited amount of ammo, and you can mow down all the other guys as they run and try and attack you.
Really, the whole game is a big, long puzzle about how do you get Trip from one part of the world to another.
So you think before you fight, and I think that's quite compelling.
Quite early settled on the idea of having robots as the enemies. First of all, we could do a lot more robot gore. We've also tried to make it a lot more tactical, so we've added things called takedowns. And these takedowns allow you to, let's say, rip off a gun mech's arm and then use that arm to shoot another mech, or turn one of the other mechs into a bomb.
The game had to be challenging, it had to be hard.
It becomes a totally different experience when you play on normal, and particularly when you play on hard. It really ramps up the challenge that you're going to face and how much you have to use tactics.
Was incredible! Has anyone ever killed one of these before?
Not that I know of.
Oh, you did it!
Yeah. The truth is, we did it.